Welcome to the XY Advisor podcast, where it's our goal to help you become the best financial advisor possible and drive the positive evolution of financial advice. G'day, Clayton here. This is a podcast in the marketing series as Dan Brown has increased his inbound requests for meetings by 400% in the last 12 months. Now, that's the high level sort of grab your attention headline, and it's true. So he spoke about this at our Newcastle event as a part of our on tour events. And I bumped into him in Cebu, Philippines, where we were both at the VBP annual conference. And we got chatting, and I mean, those kind of numbers, right? 400% 12 months. You don't hear that very often. And I wanted to take, I guess, what we'd spoken a little bit about in the meeting at Newcastle and turn it into a full podcast and give him 100% of the attention. Like, where does his advice journey start, and how did he end up where he is, and what's the sort of the ingredients to increasing your traffic by such a huge amount, which he was very gracious enough to share with us. So hopefully you enjoy. This episode is proudly sponsored by FE Analytics. Now, a number of XY advisors have already discovered this one-stop, easy-to-use tool that helps with investment research, analysis, portfolio construction, ongoing monitoring, and client reporting. Find out how FE Analytics can help you improve your business process, manage your existing client base, and win new business by contacting Bruce Jenner via bruce.jenner, Jenner, at financialexpress.net, or visit financialexpress.net for more information.
G'day, how's it going? What do you know, Strike a Light? Clayton here from XY Advisor. We're at XY Abroad at the moment. We're in the Philippines, in Cebu. And I'm here with Daniel. And Daniel has spoken, well, you've spoken at an XY event not that long ago in Newcastle.
Yep.
And we kind of got in touch just to follow up on that, because you've had such a huge uplift in, business and activity sort of in the more recent part of your business life. And what was really interesting is we only had, say, around 50 people talk about it at Newcastle. And so now that we're both here in Cebu,
Lovely Cebu.
Yeah, Cebu. Just casually hanging out on the other side of the world. I figured if we sort of took that conversation and made it public to more advisors, I think they would probably find that helpful. Could you give us a little bit of a background from, I guess, how you got into advice and where you've sort of come to now?
Yeah, so started back in, say 2000. I worked in for OnePath at the time, and on the other side, and sort of had an uncle, or probably end up by being my first mentor, saying, get into financial planning, start studying. So I did, and then he said, you need to learn selling. So I went and sold insurance, and then on a weekday, I must have accepted his offer to come and start working with him. So in November 2003. So I was very young, and he threw me straight in the deep end. Learned from an early age that I didn't really enjoy the paperwork side of things. I was a people person, much like him. And so that evolved from there. So I built, saw clients that were existing of his, or saw new ones, and just continued to grow and learn. And I think I've continued on that journey and really connected with being the entrepreneur side of things, or running a business more these days. But It's definitely been an enjoyable journey.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned, and it's the focus on sales. It's such a weird thing, because I'm so in two minds about sales. On one hand, massive fan of it. Capitalism doesn't work unless someone buys something else. So sales is really important, and it's such an important part of the financial planning process, because you need that person to buy into what it is that you're selling. right? And so there's certainly a way to communicate that, through frameworks or however you want to best promote that. But the weird thing is, way before you learn how to be good at sales, you shit at sales, right? Like I was shit at sales, and yet it's kind of the first thing a lot of the times that people want you to get good at in financial planning. Like especially much more back in the day, but even still sort of today, it's kind of like it's the skill that is the first thing that needs to get taught, because I guess if there's no business, you may have the greatest thing in the world. But at the same time, I feel like maybe a huge majority of the problems that our industry has had has come from the fact that we've been good at the sales piece, and then, crisis of identity, which is what is financial planning post-FOFA?
Yep.
What is a client value proposition? Like the fact that that was even a conversation is really weird, right? Like how does a business operate without a CVP? I mean, you need to be solving a problem in the market. And so I'm super in two minds about sales. What I've landed on is I believe in that sales is a valuable skill set if you've got all the other stuff in place. If you know how to deliver value, right, then yes, your job should be to get as many people through the door as possible. But up until that point, it's kind of like, it can kind of make a company seem more successful than it is. So you now, and the reason I sort of say all that is because one of the things we were talking about before we started the podcast was ethics in business and delivering value and and you're going to have to walk me through this framework again, but being driven by your values and being driven to deliver value has taken you to where you've become. Taking you to where you've arrived now. You've become this value-driven financial planning company, but you started out, like most, in sales.
Yep.
And so, does what I'm saying resonate at all?
Yeah, so I think without having a very strong marketing and branding and sales process in your business, that's like the core fuel to your business.
Totally.
And if you're not good at any of them, you need to be. You're going to fail.
Totally.
So selling is adding value, and adding value is different for every person. So you've got to have some level of flexibility there, and it's just being confident in what you're articulating.
Yeah.
And so the other person, if they can understand the value, they'll always buy. So, and we do that in day-to-day life, and many other bigger businesses do it far different and probably to our unconsciousness far better than what we do as advisors. We have all these things and acronyms that we have to articulate to someone and break it down, but if they can understand the simplicity that it is in the end, they'll buy it. Yeah. So I think, and just having the right mindset about it, which is what we were referencing before we started, about that model that I love to use, which is be, do, have. So it's not like when I'm selling, it's about giving an experience of myself. So was it like a premonition once with a client, went out to see them and they started talking to me about music, and I said, I've just been to the Big Day Out. Oh, that were the days. And before they knew it, they just said, we went too, and then they'd been and liked all the same bands, and it was like a click. The more I become and show up how I want to be, more of myself, 100% myself, then I go about how I want to do advice or do business or interact with people 24/7, then I'll have what I need to have. And most goal setting is set the other way around. I really challenge, as I was talking about, challenge that status quo and removing, time frames from goals and things like that, and really engage with people that way.
So you remove time frames from goals.
Yeah. So I just think that's one of my sayings is no limiting beliefs. If you put I just want to get a new car. I don't know what people would buy these days. I hardly drive these days. I just walk everywhere to work. But so they bought a new Mazda, and they said, I want to spend a Mazda, and it's going to be $30,000, and I'm going to buy it in 12 months' time. I would challenge that person, and I ask our advisors and coach them to do the same. Is that how do you challenge that and actually remove the time frame? Because how can you change your mindset to go about having an abundant mindset or mentality to get, why couldn't you do it in 6 months, or why does that just have to be $30,000, or if it's a house or any other, so how can we go about, and then, for example, that might lead to a discussion as, finding ways to create more income, or do you really need all the assets, or do you need to be doing your cash flow? So it links heavily to financial planning, the standard 101 process, but challenges them around, could they do an extra course and get qualified to get that next level of income? That would get them a better car or a different car. So
awesome, right? So you like, or one of the things that you like to do is say, okay, you're a financial planner you're a client that wants to achieve X, but I think we can probably help you get to X, but in a more efficient, effective way, and that's what you're coaching your financial planners to deliver as value.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
Yes, it's just, we absolutely use frameworks to articulate that as well. A lot of people come in, they haven't had if it's a husband and wife, depending on how you view the world or your experience, or, they generally have opposites attract theory. I like that. So, one's a spender, one's a saver. They haven't had a conversation about it. So you get them in a room, and a framework I like to use is then say, well, do you want to continue to have a scarcity-driven mindset, or looking at the world a certain way, or could we potentially challenge that and say, well, what happens if I could have everything? What happens if I could retire and have the lifestyle that I've ever always desired? Give money to the grandkids now. Why can't I do that? Or, so if we run our meetings at that way, driven around scarcity as an example, then it's just a cookie cutter approach. Have we really changed? Have we had impacted on their life? No, we'll just let them continue to do so.
Mate, that's awesome. How do you put that on an FDS?
That's right. Great question. That's a very interesting question. Luckily, that's ongoing advice, not upfront advice. Yeah, so we're a big user of whiteboards and engaging people. Everyone runs the same process. We have a 5-step meeting process that builds a framework for all those type of discussions.
You have a 5-step meeting process?
Yeah, so inside every meeting I do, every meeting, and business, whatever, run through the same meeting process inside the meeting. So not 5 meetings, 5 steps in a meeting that I've evolved over time.
What are they?
Can't tell you too much. That's the secret. That's the secret to the success.
That's cool. No, I appreciate that.
But it's probably having a clear agenda for every meeting, and understanding that everyone's on the same path, but also it's the client's agenda, not ours. So don't go in with we've got a set of things that we have to do, and that's fine to follow and keep compliant, but for every meeting there's a process that we always work to the client's agenda, which is reflected in your fact finding and scoping and that. But there's things that that aren't discussed in a financial plan. Like, I just want to make sure that I have knowledge about what superannuation is, or so okay, what do you mean by that? And ask a few questions and articulate that the best I can. So they walk out at the end, they've met their agenda, and so are they more likely to engage in our process? Absolutely. So
the thing that, and we've kind of spoken about sales, but the thing you're really, I'd say, well known for, perhaps in the XY community, is marketing. So the way that I describe marketing is sales represents a gap in your marketing. So a perfect marketing would be someone finds you online and becomes a client without ever talking to anyone, right? So that would be a perfect marketing.
Bliss.
Yeah, bliss, absolutely. Which is not really going to happen in financial planning, let's face it. But I believe you can get people a lot closer to sales or to becoming a client with a small sales process. And the better your marketing is, the smaller that your sales gap needs to be, needs to cover. Now, marketing also is almost like the top of the funnel, right? It's how many people are coming in and checking out and and want to have a conversation with you. And interestingly, your top of the funnel has grown 400% in the last 12 months. Now, that's crazy, right? Like, that is phenomenally amazing. Now, I hear, people talk about conversion rates, and sales will say, I've gone from 30% conversion rate to 70% conversion rate, and that's huge as well. But improving the amount of people that even come and talk, like knocking on your door to have that conversation, to improve that by 400%, I mean, that's the largest number that I've heard of in terms of financial planning marketing. So, how did you do it?
So it was like everything. If I didn't know a whole heap about marketing when I started in 2003, so it's been a whole lot of learnings and education. But I identified that it's not a strength, so I find that if I don't know something, let's go and figure out how to do it. So I think there's an element of that, and then I have a very good outsource or partner that partners with me on implementation,
cool.
which I've referred to a few businesses already.
Yep.
So I think there's that, and then I think the more important thing, I went back and really analysed and understood our brand or positioning. So what is that all about? Effectively, from the time someone engages with our product, our advice, or our whatever it may be on our website or social media, it's got to be the one constant message, having the same colour theme or palette throughout.
Yep.
Is an example. So when they get the experience from when they see us on a website, so they greet one of our people, whoever that may be, from reception to our advisors. I talk to them about personal brand is a reflection in an external community. So what do we do on our social media? Think about what that impact is. Is that reflective of who we are or how we want to show up?
Yeah.
Through to so then I guess through to when they walk in our office. I spend a lot of money on making sure it reflects it's a one constant throughout. That's probably the number one thing, and then two, understanding who your audience is. Like, if you're going to write to about retirement advice, like, do they want to hear? I want to hear a TTR and a self-managed super fund, or our world. They don't want to hear about our world. They want to hear about how they relate. How much money am I going to have? We know what their questions are going to be. How much money do I have? How am I going to? If we're focusing on retirement here,
yeah.
How much money am I going to have? How long is it going to last me? And what happens when I'm gone?
Yeah.
So talk about that in the way you write content. And if you're not good at writing content, teach yourself to get good at writing content.
Yeah.
You can outsource it, but I generally find we make all of our advisors write 2 pieces a month.
That's achievable.
They can record it, they can write it. It doesn't have to be perfect. We can polish it up with our team behind the scenes, but it gets different perspectives. One of our advisors, Christy, who's worked with me for 15 years, so mainly admin, and then she's now into advising.
Wow.
And she has had limiting beliefs, which I've challenged and pushed her. But even she's writing content, and talk about your experience, Doing your paperwork and it ensures that you get maximum income, as an example. And she's like, oh, it's actually really enjoyable. I'm like, I know. You've got and share that wisdom. So people want to know and connect. So that's probably the few main things.
Content. So content's a big thing.
Yeah, relevant content, and then the success we've had, and I literally can now turn it up and turn it down.
That's crazy, hey?
I know I know the keys to success pretty much, and I'm got to be careful not to give them to everyone. But and understand your opposition. Treat it like it's a warfare.
Right.
What would you do if your business is under attack or your family is under attack?
Yeah.
What would you do? You'd have to figure out a way to defend it. So I went around and looked at our opposition and say, well, what do they do differently that I don't? And then how can I be better?
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to think of being ahead of the pack. And we've got scale now. So I can spend a week out working in the business, which has been phenomenal here in Cebu with the virtual business partners. And then I've got time to work on it and think of things differently to others, or continue to analyse what others are doing and say, how do I do it better? So staying ahead of the pack.
Yeah. How many advisors work for your multiple companies now? How many advisors do you have?
So 10 advisors now at the moment.
That's a lot. Like that's a decent sized financial planning practice, especially spread across now 3 cities or 3 areas.
Yeah.
What do you teach them all? Let's say your 5-step meeting method. Like, does that DNA flood throughout
Yeah, so obviously each advisor comes from a different experience, whether they be young. I do like I've trained now 13 advisors in my lifetime.
Yeah, right.
And I'd rather mentor them from the word go versus, they come in with a preset of ideas and it takes time to show them different.
Yeah.
From recording a file note to writing on a whiteboard, they're used to doing it from paper transactions to typing a file note. So it takes time and you've got to support them through that change. But yeah, they do. The other thing we try to do is get them to focus on being a specialist. So I believe the industry is going to be more like the legal profession, where you have specialists in a certain area, and there'll be a high-ranking advisor with a support crew behind them.
Yeah.
And ideally, you're outsourcing the functions that you shouldn't be doing anymore because it's just not cost-effective.
Yes.
So each of and so when it links back to the marketing, so we've not only got the advisors, and I'm there to train and mentor them whenever they like, and that includes sitting in the meetings or running the meetings. So we've got that, and then when we talk about building their marketing avatar, so if they're going to do 2 areas of advice, that could be retirement ready or an aged care as an example, well that's all they're going to focus on for their content. That's what we're going to build on their website.
Yep.
And then ideally as we continue to grow, we then refer those advisors to the work that they, so they get out of bed every day. They're not doing cash flow and budgeting. They do exactly what they love doing, working with exactly the clients they want to do.
Yes.
So they get, the client gets what they want, the team come together and they get to do what they want.
Yeah.
And inadvertently we get the culture that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. Actually, one of the things that you were talking about is like building a base of content that makes you a specialist, right?
Yeah.
Brett Evans has done so well from this one strategy in expat advice that he's now moved to the United Arab Emirates, right? And he's setting up an office over there. Now, it's kind of bizarre but true, this concept that if you're writing a lot of relevant material that people are searching for, Google ends up promoting you. And I know that it sounds simple and yet so few people do it. Some strategies I've been learning about recently is what's called a pillar page. Have you heard of a pillar page?
No.
So a pillar page sits to the side of your website, and what it does is let's say you've got an advisor who writes 10 or 20 articles on aged care. What you end up doing is you create a pillar page called, the name of your business / the keyword that you want, and then you write another article and link in all of the current articles, but make sure that they're all linked in. It's specifically Google is looking for this, where all of your content is on one page.
Yep.
Then, so all of your content is linking in this way, and then from your pillar page, all your content is linking back the other way. So it ends up being this centerpiece with all of your blogs all centered around one page. And that apparently is the latest way to promote content marketing. So
It's another thing to learn.
Yeah, it's definitely another thing to learn.
One thing I think is thrown around in business too is know your numbers, which is a key thing. You must know your numbers in a business. But the second one would be, I think the world is now know your data. So actually understand what people are looking for and write. Yeah. So look at your Google Analytics and see what people are searching for.
Yeah.
I think the other thing probably with marketing is even sitting here in that room yesterday, or I think it was, and there's a person in the room had a marketing degree and still didn't do any marketing. So it's like an investment, and it's a thing that we don't like doing, but the rewards are so profound. So I think that probably links back to what I said before. Many don't have an up-to-date website. They don't do social media at all, or if they do, it's very poor. They're not representing their brand. And it's a massive opportunity and no one's really doing it. And then they'll whinge. So many times I said, how many leads do you get off your website? Oh, we what do you mean? We just use it for our phone number. That's the new yellow pages. I'm like, you...
No.
So,
yeah, no, it's do you use things like Google Trends, SEM Rush, I believe is another way to find terms that you write content for? Yeah.
So, yeah, we get from our marketing team, I'll mention, you can cut it out if you want, but the measured marketer, Jackie Daly, so we've worked on a monthly, or they've done it, I just asked for it, monthly dashboard so we can see data, leads, all of it in one. And it costs a bit to do and it costs a bit each month to report, but I can see every business live where I'm spending my money.
That's phenomenal.
And when someone comes knocking on your door to buy you out at some point in time, perhaps, you know, they're going to look at what did you do with your marketing, and I can say, well, I've got 36 reports here every month and shows how we built it and the results. Yeah. So versus we have a website with a phone number.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? Do you do a lot of like landing pages? Yep. Content download, put your email in here. Nurture campaign, yada yada yada. Yeah, so it's all like sort of at this stage kind of 101, and yet you don't meet a lot of advisors that are doing this, which is bizarre. Do you do workshops at all?
Like externally to?
Yeah. Well, let's say like, do you promote a workshop, or do you always just promote a piece of value, a downloadable piece of value?
Yeah, so there's a few things. One obviously is Google AdWords, and they're probably in short note, we don't have time for it. It's too busy.
Wow. Yeah, right. So you just scope. So it's all digital, then go in for a meeting.
Yeah, and so we just have a very unique process at once. It's all technology driven out the back of it.
Yeah.
The biggest thing we did was promote the Book Now function, and that books directly into our calendar through a product called You Can Book Me. Hopefully they get a kickback somewhere from that. And that was our lead conversion from people viewing our website to engaging went through the roof overnight.
Wow.
And that was not my idea. That was a lady in our team who's now our operations manager, Corinne. That was hers. She said, what do you think? So we trialled it for $8 a month.
Nothing, right?
No.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest learning being over here, considering the technology and so forth that you can use and embrace the life. I keep thinking at the moment, she won't know it, she will hear this after I've spoken to her hopefully, Lily in our team, who came on as an admin lady but loves the technology. So I'm saying I'm going to send her here and say, how do we, her role's going to be technology integration.
Yeah.
One, because we've got the scale to do it, but the results of using technology are just fast tracking, making our business grow. So things like that. But most people just wouldn't, there's a good analogy yesterday that it's like the wave was coming, and people either saw the wave and got ready and paddled onto it. They thought that wave's not for them, so they'll just move to the side, or before they know it's crashing on their head. Yeah. And with the news that came out this week, with licensees shutting down and booting out advisors, that change is going to get faster and faster. So
yeah, it's super overwhelming. Like seeing Financial Wisdom, AMP, take these sort of take these positions and change so dramatically. It's really overwhelming when you think about how many advisors are, unfortunately, I use that term on purpose, unfortunately haven't arrived at what you've been working on for so long, you know what I mean? So it's now become, probably more than ever, in order to succeed, I think we need to accept at this stage that if you're not developing your own leads, developing your own methodology to bring on new clients, to look after your current clients, to be able to easily display what your value is and charge annual fees. Such little room at this stage, such little room to progress and to provide a lot of value and have a sustainable business. And like your business, the way that you're talking about it is, considering if you're focused on content marketing, what that does is it says, okay, well, person who ends up buying, this is the marketing system. It's already set up, so you can now turn up and turn down.
Yep.
So that's not something that they have to build up the ability to do it, build up the infrastructure to be able to achieve it, and then that puts a premium on your business.
Exactly.
You know.
So what's if you go from a 6 times EBIT model to 7 times in the future, whatever that calculation is, just because of the marketing.
Yeah.
I think, and I've been approached a couple of times the last couple of months, and only a few weeks ago a guy was like, why don't you bottle that up and sell it? And I said, I've been thinking about how do I leverage off it, because there's not many people that are doing it. Do I coach it? Do we franchise it? Do we go out and keep doing it? It does take a lot of energy to keep going, and we just opened up in Sydney. But we could easily go and do it in any other. I feel I could do it in any location and get it right now. But I have a very good team behind me. I still have been doing a lot of advising still, so I still see clients. It's getting challenging. But I have, Jay Beckton, who works in our team, and I come up with ideas and he implements. So I have a very good team of people around me to be able to do what we're doing. So I think that's another thing that puts us ahead of the pack, and outsourcing. So we got, 24 staff, not all full time. In Australia, and then we've got 7 here now, and then we've got our paraplanning done out of Plan Logic in Sri Lanka.
So where does virtual business partners fit in if they're not doing the paraplanning?
So we built that up slowly. So I think went from 1 to 3, and now 6, and then 7. We've got a mortgage broking, and then business as well now. So they'll start doing the whole.
That's a question I actually had. So I never did mortgages as an advisor. Can you just outsource to these guys?
I think that's what they will build. I don't think it's... So we've got a broker in-house, Jeff Sawtell, and another brand. So we run it as a separate business, I guess, but not. They're in it's just the old vertical integrated. They're in the lending. And then it's all... financial planning and the lending will all be done, the processing through here, but the financial planning we've built now. So we have a team leader, Celeste, who's amazing. They're all so intelligent. I feel inferior, even though the Philippine psychology is the other way around. I feel inferior to them. Very, very smart. And we've built a process through their structure that we've systemised the whole back end. So from the day a client walks in and books on the website, that's through our threading process, but then they dial in behind it, and we've built it slowly. Now they do everything. They do implementation, reviews, fact-find prep, ad hoc tasks. We get them doing marketing support, uploading. It's just like having another office in another location.
That must be so much hard work to get all that done. Oh my God.
Speak to Dave Carney, and they got a lot of support structure to do all that. So they've got flowcharts.
But how many years has that taken for you to do? Like to system, first of all, systemize. Right.
I would have thought somewhere between 12 and 18 months.
Okay, that's not actually as bad as I thought.
So it just enables our team in Australia to then be client-facing. They can talk to clients, they can be proactive on the phone, we can identify projects. So absolutely, we've created scale. And it's been, even now reflecting back, I'm like, I didn't really set out to do this. I started with one person 3.5 years ago, and then away I've gone.
3.5 years to get from where you are now from where you started to... So you only... opened your business 3.5 years ago?
Yeah, I set it back up. Daniel Brown.
That makes it even crazier. My God, that's cool, man. So you've got Newcastle Financial Planning, Central Coast Financial Planning, and Sydney Financial Planning.
All Sydney Wealth Advisors.
Sydney Wealth Advisors, yes.
Yeah. So we bought that brand from an ex-PDM of ours, and we're only just starting to launch it now. But so that's where it is.
Awesome, man. Well, look, I mean, thanks heaps for coming on. Now you've done an event and a podcast. So I think the next is, I guess we're just going to have to put 10 people in the room, charge them all $100,000 each, and you can share all your secrets.
We can do that. We'll be co-sponsored. And it's interesting because I think XY is just... I've been so frustrated for never engaged with any other business or, association, if you want to call it that, and with XY and having just the Facebook post and, reaching out. There was you reach out and offer assistance to people. I think it's such a great idea and concept, and will very much support the future and where you're heading.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Cool. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks.
How long was that?